and thank you for joining our Resilient Matters series. Alison and myself are thrilled today to be joined by Michaela Reaney, who is a human potential expert and also co-founder of the award-winning company, The Opportunity Group. Alison and myself have worked with Michaela before, and I love her ethos that talent is distributed evenly, but opportunity isn't. And I know you've created programs that go to those hard to reach communities, as well as working with the police for C100 and scaling SMEs. So thrilled you're joining us today, Michaela. It's great to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Brilliant. So tell us a bit about yourself.
Oh, thank you. So hi, everyone. I'm Michaela. I've been very fortunate to know Alison and Kathy for a number of years now. So I was delighted when they invited me to join their Resilience series. It is my first ever LinkedIn Live. So I am excited to be with you. And I think it's a brilliant time to do this because we've been seeing a lot in the press and on LinkedIn around human potential. What does that mean? Being more human, being more vulnerable in our day-to-day lives as well as within business. And I think it's the perfect time really to have a discussion about resilience. And I'm really delighted to be able to do that in a safe space with you both.
Yeah, brilliant. And it's funny, you say, we talk about resilience much more than we used to. Do you think it's just because we need resilience more, or attitudes have changed around resilience? Why do you think that is?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. I think resilience has always been around. I think it's something that is, a kind of natural reflex, but one that we can all develop and learn over time as well through all of the experiences that we go through, both in our personal and professional lives. I think why it's more I suppose out there and a bit of a buzzword now is that people are recognizing it as a real kind of quality and skill that people naturally have available, but can develop and train and learn as they go through not only their careers, but in their personal lives as well. So I think it's just becoming more topical for people, particularly, in this crazy world we're all finding ourselves in. Understanding what does resilience actually mean and how do you learn to be more resilient. And I think it can have different meanings for different people, but there's lots of tools and techniques and tips that we can kind of be sharing in forums like this so that we can all learn and perhaps trial and test some of these different techniques and just see what lands and what works for you as an individual as well, because it's not a kind of one size fits all approach, I think, to resilience. We all go through very different experiences in life which help us build that resilience, but with that we also build different tools. And wouldn't it be a wonderful world if we actually shared those with each other so that we could all benefit from it?
I totally agree. And then part of our quest, if you like, to do these live webinars is to share that, to help others and how they build that. And I know certainly in your world of, reskilling, there's a lot of research out there that says a third of our jobs are going to change in the next, I think it's between now and 2030. So again, for us, that resilience is going to be even more important as our world of work changes, not forgetting, like you say, this crazy world, that we live in at the moment. And it is very personal. And I guess from a personal point of view, where have you found yourself, trying to be more resilient, and what sort of tools did you use?
Yeah, it's really interesting. So when I was preparing for this session and you kindly sent me some questions, one of the thoughts I had was, am I a resilient person? Like, I'd never really posed that question. And I think that's often the way when people are, resilient. You don't realize till after the fact, if that makes sense. So an event, an experience, a problem that you're trying to solve, in that moment, you are just facing that and coming up with often improvised solutions that kind of come out of thin air. And it's only afterwards that you realize that actually that reaction and that solution that you've come with has come from many years and many experiences and tools that you've built over time. And I think part of it is actually pausing, reflecting, understanding what you've perhaps handled differently or the different behaviors that you've demonstrated in that scenario, and then using them again or looking at different things. So when I was looking at a few things popped up for me, I mean, there are some things in my life that I'm not yet ready to share publicly because they're not just my story. But some of the things that, you know, I'm happy to share with, you know, I keep thinking it's just the three of us, there's a whole host of you know, there's certain moments I think that, you know, you always go back to and you think actually that was quite a turning point. It made me view things differently and I really learned from it. So one of those was I was 24. So 12 years ago now, for everyone trying to work out how old I am. I actually found out I'd been for about a year, I'd been really unwell. And I found out I had a congenital heart condition that had never been diagnosed. So at the age of 24, I went through heart surgery. And like, I'm not sharing that because, you know, I think there's lots of things out there that people have gone through way more, you know, challenges in life than me. But what it really made me think about was, what do I want from my life? That moment when you know, you're 24, I had a fantastic job and career, I was doing all these things, but I'd always wanted my own business. I'd known that. And I, to be honest with you, hadn't done anything about it. I'd kind of, you know, thought about it. What does that look like? And it was that moment that I thought, that's my ultimate goal and ambition. Why the hell am I spending and felt like wasting my time doing other things? And that was really that pivotal moment where I thought, actually, what is my purpose? What will give true meaning to my life? And how can I start building from there? So that is one of those moments where I think I felt like, now reflecting on it, at the time you're just dealing with it and you're going through emotions, and you know, I had to travel quite a distance for surgery and different things. So I was living in a different city while all that was going on. And it's those moments that you think about, you know, after the fact, that the things I learned from that I think I've taken forward. So I knew that the role I was in, I felt was possibly a, you know, potential dream job that I was going into, but actually reality was very different. And what brought real meaning to me was sitting down and thinking about what's Michaela's purpose and goals, not what everyone, you know, wanted for me or all of those. It was the first moment that I thought, what does that look like for me? And from there, I kind of set off on that journey, really, which took a few years before I, you know, truly launched. But it was the turning point to actually push me to do it and to, you know, do what I wanted and commit to it fully, I suppose.
It's quite interesting, isn't it, how sometimes a challenge can become a gift.
Oh, yeah.
So that you have that moment, as you say, and you whilst you're going through it, it's about getting things done. But when you can just take that moment to stop and think how life impacting it can be, it makes you stop. And did you in any way sort of feel a little bit selfish and suddenly going, what does Michaela want? Because I've come across people like purpose is selfish.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's a lot of guilt we all hold around that as well. And I think part of what I've really learned about resilience is that to become more resilient, you've got to look after yourself. Like, you've got to look at self-care. You've got to set healthy boundaries. And, you know, I say this and I kind of have a slight laugh to myself because it's still a work in progress. I am, you know, self-confessed definite people pleaser. So, you know, I'm still working on that, but it's something I do keep coming back to. And those moments in the business, and gosh, like, there's a whole other probably episode I could show. Various things, some you already know, and other things you probably don't, that has happened during the business, and really challenging times, and moments when people have literally wanted to take the business away from us, and, you know, all these horrendous things that happen. But what you take from that is, you know, how do I become more resilient? Like, what do I need to focus on? And the big thing for me always has got to be like having meaningful connections with people as well, and relationships. So self-care, I think, is a big one, but meaningful relationships and connections, because if you really nurture relationships in your network, at moments when you are challenged or there's a big issue or problem you're facing, you've got people you can lean on. You've got people that will bring different things, actually. So it's not about having one person with just one perspective. You'll get lots of different viewpoints on actually how you handle that situation and move forward. And I think from that, you become more resilient. So it's not just an inside job. I think sometimes people think that resilience is a very solitary, like, inner grit. Yes, I think it's partly that. But I think the second part is meaningful relationships and connections. So that, you know, a great example in the business is I've got a fantastic co-founder, Kate, and there's moments when, you know, I don't need her to help necessarily with the situation, but I need her to make me laugh, like, you know, so I need to kind of, you know, help you see the humor in the situation and to look past the issue and think about, actually, you know, this isn't derailing us. This is just having to rethink something and pivot slightly or look at it in a different way. You know, you need people who are going to show a bit of empathy, you know, someone that you can kind of have a bit of a rant to actually about a situation. And through that, you become more resilient because you're sharing what's going on for you rather than just trying to do it all yourself. And I think that's something I've really learned, where, you know, even through going through things like surgery and health things and issues with the business, I think where I went wrong in those situations is by trying to do too much of it on my own and trying to like push through and, you know, not wanting to share how scared I was, you know, not wanting to share exactly how I was feeling about, kind of, you know, being very British about it, and it's fine and I'll muddle through, and, you know, and that kind of masculine energy, I think, is great because it helps you push to goals, and there's lots of brilliant things about that type of energy. But we need to balance that with the more feminine energy to be a bit more vulnerable and be a bit more human. And, you know, and if sharing those experiences can help someone else not feel alone, that feels really good, because I'm sure we all have times where in that moment it can feel very overwhelming and very lonely. And yes, you become more resilient as a result of these experiences, but you don't think about that at the time. You just think, how the hell am I going to get through this? But by sharing, talking to other people, having that network around you, having mentors, having people that you can lean on for different perspectives, I think just makes us all more resilient and more able to open up. I don't know if that
and I think it is that thing about, yes, I think a lot of us can put that network in place, but to take that final step of going, and I'm going to admit when I need help, I need support, I feel this way, you know, that's actually, whilst it sounds such a simple thing, that's the bit that people sometimes find really hard, because they want to be perfect and able to deal with everything, and actually we're all human.
It's not realistic, is it?
And we're made to be part of a tribe, aren't we? I heard, you know, and we do. And like you say, you know, we've all had our rough patches, and I think having those people, I think, to your point, Michaela, I think different people give you different things, don't they? Whether it's a mentor, for me, just somebody giving me that reality check when you know you can possibly sabotage yourself with that being perfect, going, oh, I shouldn't feel like this. And, you know, it makes me wonder whether we put too much pressure on ourselves, you know, to be perfect all the time, and actually to be positive all the time. We are, as I say, human, right? So, you know that positive, that they call it toxic positivity, you know, that we see the term flying around, you know, is that detrimental to us?
Yeah, no, really good point. And we spoke a little bit about this, didn't we, just while we were getting ready to come on live. And, you know, I think toxic positivity is, like, again, another buzzword that we're seeing a lot more of now, but it's dangerous, actually, you know, to be comparing ourselves, because let's face it, we're only human. We all do it. You know, it doesn't matter how successful or what your version of success looks like. You can't help but compare. And I think sometimes when you see these, you know, Instagram and LinkedIn stuff and Facebook, and you compare, and your imposter syndrome like kicks in, and your inner critic comes out, and I call mine Bridget. So Bridget pops up and she starts,
what a great idea,
giving me a hard time, and, you know, over various different things. And I think positivity is brilliant. Like, I would describe myself as a natural optimist. And I think that's part of resilience. If you can see an opportunity or a way around something, then that is part of resilience. However, it has to be balanced, because it's also absolutely fine to say, I'm not having a good day. I'm feeling overwhelmed. There's a lot going on, and, you know, being more open, you know, and that's something I'm really learning, that people actually want that from us, I think, you know, from us. And certainly I realized that with our team, that actually they want that level of transparency. They want us to be more vulnerable with them. Whereas for a long time, I think this image of leadership was, you know, you kind of like battle through and you're this inspirational leader and you don't show any weakness and all of that kind of stuff. And I think that moment's past. That's not what people want anymore. Part of actually being truly authentic is sharing warts and all, the stuff that you don't get right, you know, the things that you fail at, the things that I was sharing with our team this morning. We were all together in Birmingham, you know, things that I've just not got right this month. And it allows a safer space, I think, for people to be honest about how they're feeling and the things that perhaps aren't going as well for them and all of that kind of stuff. So it's, I think it's quite powerful, actually, to be truly vulnerable. For me, it's a work in progress. I'm still finding out what vulnerability means to me and what I'm comfortable sharing, because equally, there's some things I'm not ready to share. But being able to just talk about how we feel, I think, is just a step on that journey.
Yeah, and it's a balance, isn't it? Because as you say, you know, there's you want to share what you know, the aspects of yourself that you think will help you to engage with others, but there may be certain parts that you go, okay, as you say, not right now. You know, I'll find my way through it. But by starting that sense of it's okay to be me and not having your little voice, you know, just, I think I'd call mine Margaret, to be honest. I think, you know, Margaret is there just having a little go, and to just, to quieten her by letting your thoughts and your worries and your concerns out there. You're suddenly reducing the power of the inner self-talk, and you're as you say, you're then connecting with all those meaningful relationships out there that help you think, do you know what, I can do this, not in a toxically positive way, but in a, it can be done.
Yeah, it helps you find a way forward, doesn't it? By, you know, sharing and getting someone else's perspective. And, you know, there's lots of people, I think, in my life that I do lean on for those perspectives, because sometimes you can get so bogged down, can't you, in the issue or the challenge that you're facing, that it becomes really difficult to find your way out of it, because you're just not thinking logically. You're perhaps feeling quite emotional about it and you're feeling quite drained. So those meaningful connections and relationships, I think, are quite critical there. And yeah, I think toxic positivity is something that we're going to see more and more of as people, you know, start to think about what that means for them and how comfortable they're sharing. But if one person listening to this live can take something from it and not feel so alone, our work is done, right? That is our purpose. That's what we're here to do. You know, there's been moments, I'm sure, that all three of us have felt completely alone in a particular problem. And if we'd have shared how we were feeling right then more, there'd have been so many other people that would have stepped forward and said, I know how you're feeling. Like, I can relate to that. This is how I handled that situation. Or sometimes actually you don't need someone to even help you with the problem. You just need them to listen. Yeah. So.
And I tell you what is interesting, what you just raised there, is that authentic leadership piece, because as a coach, I see that a lot, you know, where people want to be strong, want to, you know, create the vision for their team and be this powerful leader. You know, and it's a really fine line as to where you do show your vulnerabilities and say, guys, don't know what we're going to do here, let's get our heads together, or I'm really, you know, this is a problem. Where that line is with that vulnerability, because I agree, I've worked for leaders where they've created that psychological safety where you can just go, I don't know what to do, or this has just happened and I might messed up a bit or whatever it is. And you know, so it's really hard, isn't it? You know, how you draw that line between authenticity and that leadership piece. And I don't have the answer, but I know it comes up all the time, and it's a personal thing to the individual, isn't it?
It is, yeah. And I think, you know, for years I was thinking, like, what's my leadership style? Like, what do I want my leadership style to be? And you know what? Like, I can't swear, can I, in here? It's nonsense, isn't it? That's it. It's nonsense. Because we all, like, it's not what do I want my leadership style to be, or what do people need to be? It's what is Michaela's leadership style? Like, who am I as an individual, and how does that translate into me being a leader? Not me having to take on a certain style that's been in a model or a theory for many, many years. It's what does it mean for me? And, what do people in my team need from me as a leader? So it's just reframing it ever so slightly. But for me, it was a bit of a light bulb moment, because I think for years I was trying to perhaps fit into a certain box or into a certain style. And, it didn't feel authentic to me. It didn't feel quite right. There was always something that I maybe would have changed about that or adapted a little bit. So, it's still a work in progress. It's still a learning curve. And I think just by being more human, being more me, and, kind of quite honestly, if Bridget, my inner critic, or anyone else doesn't like that, that's okay, because not everyone is going to like me. And that's, I'm not for everyone. None of us are. And that's okay. But it's taken me a long time to get there, and to realize that the work that I've done on myself, I'm okay now with that. Finally, I'm still, there's still moments, of course, but I do feel now like I'm quite clear on who I am, what my meaning and purpose is, and that's what I'm working towards. And there will be some people, there'll be clients, there'll be learners that we interact with, there'll be people in our team that I'm not right for them, like that doesn't feel good to them, but that's okay, because I've been authentic, in who I am and what I do stand for and what I do believe in, and they are too. And sometimes that doesn't quite marry, but that's cool. We're all just finding our way, right? Like none of us are perfect, and we're all just learning as we go, and we will make mistakes and we will fail and we will reach a challenge that we just don't know how to get over it, round it, think of it differently. But that's all part of resilience, isn't it? And by sharing more of that, then wouldn't it be incredible if we all felt more resilient and more happy and comfortable in ourselves?
Yeah,
I think you're right. And I think there's another level of this, that if you feel comfortable in yourself, that real foundation, then it's not just about the bounce back. It's about the looking forward and going, whatever it is, I can deal with it, which is, because you go, because I'm me and I know me and I know how to deal with it. So it will be all right.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, forgiving yourself as well. That's another big thing. So, forgiving yourself for the things that you did or the things that you said when you were just trying to survive. That's another big thing. I think sometimes we're too hard on ourselves. We overthink, we analyze, we reflect to death on all of these things that we've done, we've said. And of course, that's part of the learning process. But you've also got to forgive yourself, because sometimes you were just trying to survive and you were just trying to get through that challenge and problem. And so, yes, in hindsight and after the fact, you would have done things differently. You maybe said something that you wish you hadn't said and you could take back, or whatever it might be. But part of resilience and part of being able to move on from that moment is by actually forgiving yourself as well.
And like you say, there is that piece about reflection and learning, but just letting go. And I think what I hear from you as well, Michaela, that self-confidence and kind of being okay with yourself has just really helped you propel and, like you say, be ready for anything, and even to the point of going, I'm not for everyone, but that's okay.
Yeah. And honestly, Kathy, like, I can't honestly hold my hand up and say I feel like that every day. Like, I will say that, like, yeah, of course, it's something I'm working towards. And me of like now versus even 2 years ago, even a year ago, even 6 months ago, I've done loads of work to get to that place of feeling good about who I am. But it's still something that I'm constantly working on, and I'm constantly, doing different things to think about what that means to me. And of course, there's days where, you get a bit of feedback and it hurts, because we're human, and it's like, oh, I've really worked hard on that, and I'm still not consistent, and you get so disheartened. But I think it helps you pick up quicker, like you say, Kathy, so that letting go bit. So I think I can move on from those challenging moments more quickly than I used to, because I can kind of, you can feel yourself going to that place of not believing in yourself and not feeling good enough. And then I find that now I can pull myself back from that quicker, and I can get back to the place of thinking, no, it's okay. That's just your inner critic coming out. That's you starting to process things. Don't go there. Let's remember how far you've come. Let's remember all the other things that you've overcome before. This is just another challenge. This is just another situation, and you'll reflect on it in the future, and feel very different. So one of the other things I'm trying to do more is like let yourself feel those feelings, because I think that's maybe part, Alison, what we were talking about around toxic positivity, that actually, it's great to be an optimist, but it's also good to feel the feelings as well. So when you feel yourself going to that place, one of the things I've started to do a little bit, and again, I'm trying to get more disciplined and consistent. I don't always, but I'm trying to remind myself to do this. Start writing it out. So, why am I feeling that way about that situation? Why is it taking me to that place of feeling like an imposter and feeling like I'm not good enough or whatever it might be? And actually working through what that looks like and why I'm feeling the way I am about that situation. So it's not that I'm necessarily fixing it at that point, but I'm just letting myself feel that way, writing it out, and then so I'm acknowledging it, if that makes sense, rather than just trying to pretend it's not happening and move on, because then it'll come up again. So it's best that I kind of recognize it, note it down, sit in it for a little bit, see how that's making me feel. And then I feel like from a mindset perspective, because you guys are the mindset experts, you won't tell me I'm doing this completely wrong, but we then, I feel like I then can kind of come back to those tools in the future.
Yes.
Totally. Yeah. And sometimes as well, I know when I journal, I write something that felt so massive at the time, I can go back and look at it and go, that was just ridiculous. And actually, some of these things that happen to us, like you say, they seem like the worst things ever, but actually they put you in a new direction that allows the best things ever to happen, and actually uncovers something else amazing in your life. So, and I wonder as well, do you think the more change we go through, the easier we have to bounce back, if you like, your tolerance of it becomes greater?
Yeah, I think it probably does, because you've got those tools to draw upon that you've kind of built over time. I think it sometimes depends on the situation, though, and the scenario, because sometimes life will just throw you a massive curveball and you haven't ever built the tools to deal with that. So, and then that's okay as well. It doesn't mean that you're suddenly not a resilient person. It's just that you've got to reframe your thinking and draw upon people and something inside you that you didn't even know you had. But I think over time, when you do reflect on these situations and you do put in the time to, look after yourself and think about self-care, and, I noted down things like the healthy boundaries that we talked about, and, actually putting yourself first, it's those things that help you then actually bounce back quicker, because you've kind of done some of that inner work, you've done some of the mindset work, and you're able to come back to those frames of reference.
Yeah, totally. And do you know what? I cannot believe it's going to be half an hour soon. And I've literally noticed some stuff, Michaela, even from the beginning, about how your purpose drove you forward, the connecting with others, the meaning relationships, the reality check, forgiving yourself. Bridget, I remember Bridget. There's so much great stuff that we've spoken about. And I know Alice and I, we've spoken about at the end of each month, trying to recap on some of the great stuff that comes out, because even all of them subjects people have talked about for hours. But I want to acknowledge, I think, for your journey and what you've shared, how much I admire your resilience and actually self-awareness of being really open and going, yeah, I feel like that's fine. And I think that's an accolade to you, Michaela. And so,
well, thank you.
well,
That's very kind of you to say. I've really enjoyed my first LinkedIn Live. Thank you.
Yay!
I really appreciate
Great
you
having you.
me.
I know, it's brilliant. And we will be continue to host these weekly resilience matters. And so if anybody else, like Michaela in our network, would like to be a part of it, we'd love to hear it. We love hearing fresh perspectives and how we can all help each other to be more resilient. And people can contact us through our website at ihavegotthis.co.uk.
And can I throw one thing in on that as well?
Do.
Yeah, we have been pulling together, Kathy and I have been brainstorming. We have 101 ways that you can build your mental strength. So if you want to find out more about that, that is up now. It's up on the website for everybody to access. So yeah, 101 different things. Some of them definitely the things that Michaela was talking about today that will help you build that mental strength.
I'm going to note that down. Thank you.
Amazing. Well, it's so lovely to speak to you both.
Thank you so
Great
much.
seeing you.
See you soon.
See you later. Bye.
Bye.
Okay.